Welcome to Hockeywiztalks Podcast. Today I'll be giving you an update on the first round of the NHL playoffs. This is an update on the Eastern Conference matchups. The series between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets went completely different than I anticipated. I thought this was the year for the Lightning. I really did, but it wasn't the case, as they not only were beaten by the Blue Jackets, they were swept. Everything went south for the Lightning after jumping out to a 3-0 lead in Game 1. The Blue Jackets did not give up and came back to win the game 4-3. Ever since the Game 1 victory, the Blue Jackets never looked back, and the Lightning never seemed to recover. The Lightning were out of sync and seemingly forgot how to score. On the other hand, the Blue Jackets were rolling on all cylinders, and Sergei Bobrovsky was great. The Columbus Blue Jackets deserve praise for their play in the first round, as they were just the better team. The Blue Jackets will go on to face the winner of the Boston Bruins Toronto Maple Leafs series. As anticipated, the series between the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs have been pretty back and forth, and is the most exciting series in the Eastern Conference by far. The Toronto Maple Leafs jumped out to a 1-0 lead in the series behind the 2-goal game from Mitch Marner. The Bruins were dominant in Game 2, evening the series at a game apiece. The biggest fallout from Game 2 was that Nazem Kadri was suspended for the remainder of the series. This will have a huge effect on the Leafs' game plan moving forward, as Kadri is a vital part of the Leafs team. Toronto Maple Leafs won Game 3, taking a 2-1 lead in the series. Austin Matthews and Andreas Janssen both had 2 points in the game. In Game 4, the Maple Leafs actually outshot the Bruins 42-31, but the Bruins won the game 6-4, behind a 3-point night from Brad Marchand. I predicted before that this series would go 7 games. Looking at how the first 4 games have played out, it looks like the series will go 7 games. The New York Islanders completely ran over the Pittsburgh Penguins in their best-of-7 series. The Islanders won Game 1 4-3 in overtime and never looked back. The Islanders completely suffocated the Penguins' offense, holding them to a total of 3 goals from Game 2 to 4. What Barry Trotz has done with the Islanders team this year is simply amazing. The Islanders are basically playing like the '95 Devils when they won the Stanley Cup, utilizing a neutral zone trap and a collapsing defense in front of the net. What's even more impressive about the Islanders this series is that they seem to have an answer for everything the Penguins did. The Penguins actually took the lead in every game in the series, but the Islanders would come back to win each game. When watching how the Penguins played in this playoffs, it is apparent that is the end of an era. Don't be shocked if there is a major shakeup of the core of this offseason. The New York Islanders will play the winner of the Washington Capitals Carolina Hurricanes series. The series between the Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes is kind of the lost series in the Eastern Conference. Maybe it's because most people think that Washington will easily win the series, or it's because there are better matchups in the Eastern Conference. The Washington Capitals dominated games 1 and 2 on home ice, taking a commanding 2-0 lead in the series. The Carolina Hurricanes showed that they weren't going away without a fight by winning Game 3 5-0. If Carolina wants to win this series, they need to tighten up defensively and get more production from the role players. The Washington Capitals are still favored to win the series because they have more playoff experience. Even though the Carolina Hurricanes will give them a run for their money, it won't be enough to knock off the defending Stanley Cup champions. And now, word from our sponsor. This is an update on the Western Conference matchups. I predicted before that Calgary would have some struggles in the first round against the Avalanche. I was right. The Colorado Avalanche are actually leading the series 3-1 because their top guys are outperforming Calgary's top guys. Nathan MacKinnon and Mikko Rantanen both have 5 points apiece in the series, while the highest scoring Flame is Sam Bennett. Calgary won Game 1 4-0 behind a Mike Smith shutout. The Avalanche tied the series at 1 when Nathan MacKinnon won the game in overtime for Colorado. Then in Game 3, the Avalanche dominated the Flames, outshooting them 56-29 and won the game 6-2. The Avalanche took a commanding 3-1 lead in the series when they came from behind to win Game 4 3-2 in overtime. In this series, we see the difference between a star and a superstar. Nathan MacKinnon is a legit superstar that can change the outcome of any series he plays in. For this reason, the Avalanche can actually upset the Calgary Flames. The Dallas Stars have actually outplayed the Nashville Predators in this series so far, who have come into the playoffs as favorites to win the Stanley Cup. The Stars won Game 1 3-2 as Miro Heiskanen had a goal and an assist for Dallas. Nashville won Game 2 in overtime 2-1 on the Craig Smith game-winning goal. The Predators took a 2-1 lead in this series thanks to a stellar performance from Pekka Rinne, who made 40 saves in the win. The Stars evened out the series at 2 games apiece by blowing out the Predators in Game 4 5-1. The Nashville Predators are one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup because they have one of the deepest lineups in the NHL. However, the Dallas Stars have been the hungrier team so far, making this a great series. With that said, this series is actually up for grabs, so the team that wins Game 5 will likely win the series. The series between the St. Louis Blues and Winnipeg Jets was a highly anticipated first-round matchup. This really shouldn't be a first-round matchup in the first place, but it is, due to the current playoff format. The series is currently tied at 2 games apiece. St. Louis won Game 1 2-1 thanks to 2 third-period goals by David Perron and Tyler Bozak. The St. Louis Blues jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the series by winning Game 2. Oscar Sundqvist scored 2 goals and Ryan O'Reilly scored the game-winning goal. Winnipeg Jets cut the series lead to 2-1 as they won Game 3 6-3. Winnipeg Jets tied the series at 2 as Kyle Connor got the game-winning goal in overtime in Game 4. Jordan Binnington has been an absolute stud in this series for St. Louis. If he wasn't as good as he was in goal for St. Louis, the Blues might have lost Games 1 and 2. This series is really unpredictable. As a matter of fact, I think it has potential to go 7 games. The Vegas Golden Knights and San Jose Sharks have quickly become intense rivals. Even though the Vegas Golden Knights have only been in the league for 2 seasons, they have played the Sharks in the playoffs in both seasons. Vegas has a commanding 3-1 lead in this series and have been the dominant team in the series. The San Jose Sharks won Game 1 5-2 as 4 players on the Sharks ended up with a goal and an assist. The Golden Knights won Game 2 5-3 thanks to 2 shorthanded goals and a power play goal. The Golden Knights won Game 3 taking a 2-1 lead in the series. Mark Stone got a hat trick and Paul Stastny got 2 goals. The Golden Knights would take a commanding 3-1 lead in the series by winning Game 4 5-0. Max Pacioretty got 4 points and Marc-Andre Fleury made 28 saves. It is also worth noting that Joe Thornton was suspended in Game 4, so that was a major blow to the Sharks. The Vegas Golden Knights seem like a well-oiled machine right now. With Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty scoring like this, they will be tough to beat. In my next podcast, I'll be breaking down and predicting the second round of the NHL playoffs.